JBN, we keep you informed. I am Michelle Jones, and in the news, high drama in Mandeville as shooters engage police in firefight. There was high drama in the Manchester capital Thursday afternoon as gunmen engaged the police in a daring shootout along Main Street in the vicinity of Villa Plaza. Frantic, people scampered to safety as gunshots rang out. Investigators say sometime after 3 p.m., the police responded to a tip that suspicious people were in a motor car. The police reportedly attempted to intercept the vehicle when they were fired on. "It was just one barrage of gunfire that sounded like it was coming from everywhere," said one man who worked near the Villa Plaza in the vicinity of the shooting. He said a woman was among the shooters. "It was one of what we read about in places like Kingston and Mobile," he said. Another man who said he witnessed the incident said that it happened quickly. "I was sitting in my van in the parking lot and closed my eyes for a minute because I'm tired, and all I started hearing was shots firing. By the time I look up, I see a car, a blaze gun and a bag of police in the area," said the eyewitness who requested anonymity. The shooters managed to flee in a motor vehicle. However, the police retrieved a number of spent shells from the scene. Abducted Clarendon woman found wounded in St. Thomas. The St. Thomas police are probing the circumstances leading to the discovery of a woman suffering from a gunshot wound to her head on Thursday. She is believed to be a 24-year-old Clarendon resident who was recently reported to have been abducted somewhere between her hometown and Spanish Town in St. Catherine. It is reported that she was found about 7 o'clock Thursday morning in the Woodburn area after she crawled to the house of a resident seeking help. Upon inspection, it was discovered that she was in a battered state and had a gunshot wound to her head. Confirming the discovery, the St. Thomas police shared that she was assisted to a hospital in the corporate area where she was admitted. Her name is being withheld by the police pending further investigation. Robbery at bank leaves man hospitalized. The police are investigating an incident that occurred in Halfway Tree this morning, where a man was allegedly robbed and shot outside the Sagicor Bank at Tropical Plaza. The incident occurred about 9:45 a.m. The robbers escaped on a motorcycle with a bag containing money. The injured man, who was shot in the face, is in hospital. Customers were locked inside the bank as the police carried out their probe. Investigations are ongoing. Security guard fatally stabbed in St. James. A security guard was stabbed to death on Thursday night in Montego Bay, St. James. He has been identified as 27-year-old Christoph Hibbert. About 10:56 p.m., Hibbert was on duty at a lounge on Jimmy Cliff Boulevard when there was an altercation with a patron. The security guard was stabbed in the chest. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Soldier accused of failing to hand over gun remanded. The Jamaica Defense Force JDF sergeant, in whose car a prostitute was found dead 2 weeks ago, has told the court that he cannot hand over his firearm because it was stolen. The disclosure was made yesterday in 43-year-old Telofios Tracy, who is charged with failing to hand over his firearm, appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court. His attorney, Peter Champagne QC, indicated that his client will not be able to satisfy the police's request for him to hand over his gun because the army man was robbed of his gun. Champagne argued that this was a good defense. The sergeant was charged after he reportedly refused to hand over his gun for ballistic testing in connection with investigations surrounding the death of 27-year-old O'Shine Lawrence. The woman's bullet-riddled body was found in the soldier's car on February 26 along Caledonia Avenue in St. Andrew. Following investigations, Tracy was interviewed by the police and reportedly produced his firearm user's license and the license fee certificate, but refused to hand over the weapon, claiming he wanted to speak to his attorney first. It has been alleged that he later informed the police that he was robbed of the firearm. Tracy was remanded to return to court on April 7. 2 men charged with murder of Clyde Taylor. The Santon police have charged 2 men for the murder of former villa manager, 65-year-old Clyde Taylor of Salem, Runaway Bay in the parish. They are Shaquille McIntosh, 22, a houseman of Salem, and Sheldon Folks, 32, a barber of Lewis District, both in St. Anne. Taylor, former manager of Sunflower Villa in Salem, was reported missing on Sunday, February 27, who was last seen the previous night. Taylor had left his home in Salem about 9 p.m. that night, driving his 2013 Nissan Note motor car. His body was discovered 4 days later in the trunk of his car with several chop wounds to the head in Top Hill, Runaway Bay. One of the suspects was picked up prior to the discovery of the body and is believed to have cooperated with the police, which led to Taylor's body being found. Senior Superintendent Dwight Powell, commander of the St. Anne Police Division, said the men were charged late Thursday and will appear in court at a later date. Man arrested in St. James triple murder was out on bail. One of 2 men now in custody, in connection with Wednesday night's killing of 3 young siblings in Irwin Heights, St. James, was out on bail in connection with other murder charges. 11-year-old Peter Gay Cook and her 19-year-old twin brothers, Javon and Javon Stewart, were gunned down at their residence. Their 1-year-old nephew was in the house at the time of the shooting was not hurt. Meanwhile, another man who was recently convicted and given a 15-year sentence for another matter is also being looked at in connection with the case. Based on the information, he is one of those persons. He is highly likely to be charged, Police Chief for Area 1, Assistant Commissioner Clifford Chambers, said on Friday. Chambers said 2 men were taken into custody 2 hours after the incident during a major operation launched by his team. As it is now, investigators are doing a case review while they await some forensics, but it's highly possible, the lawman remarked, to impress on the possibility of charges being laid. The investigation has so far led them to individuals who are not unfamiliar with the justice system. There's a person that was convicted in the courts a few days ago and was sentenced to 15. So far, there's a strong correlation between the murders and the persons that have been picked up, Chambers said. The community of Erie Knights has been rocked by the deaths of the siblings. A working theory now being looked at by lawmen is that the twin brothers were the intended targets, while their younger sister got caught up in the assault. Integrity Commission recommends FLA review 52 gun permits it granted. The Integrity Commission has recommended that the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, immediately conduct a review of 52 firearm licenses granted between 2012 and 2018. The Director of Investigation says the FLA should consult with the National Intelligence Bureau and the Criminal Investigations Branch to determine whether the license should be revoked. The recommendation follows a probe by the Integrity Commission that uncovered a raft of breaches and acts of impropriety and corruption in the granting of gun license by the FLA. The Director of Investigation found that 33 licenses were granted to ex-convicts between 2016 and 2018, and that in 7 of those instances, the persons were convicted for violent crimes, while 4 were for illegal possession of firearms and other gun offenses. The Director of Investigation found that 33 licenses were granted to ex-convicts between 2016 and 2018, and that in 7 of those instances, the persons were convicted for violent crimes, while 4 were for illegal possession of firearms and other gun offenses. In 38 instances, licenses were granted to persons linked to criminal activities, including lottery scamming and violent crimes. Many of the licenses were granted after an initial denial. The Director of Investigations recommended amendments to the Firearms Act regulations to incorporate specific requirements and character traits that would constitute the criteria to be met by an applicant who is deemed fit and proper to be granted a firearm license. He said the FLA board should conduct a further assessment into the backgrounds and lifestyles of ex-convicts to determine whether they should be entrusted with a firearm. Turning to the Minister of National Security, the Director of Investigation said the Firearms Act and its regulations should include an established process which guides the minister in the grant of firearm user license on appeal. Without such an established process, he argued, the unrestricted application of ministerial discretion would undermine the integrity and credibility of the appeals process and give rise to the perception of bias and corruption. The Director of Investigation has also recommended that the National Security Minister familiarize himself with reports of the National Intelligence Bureau and Criminal Intelligence Branch. This will ensure that the Minister is fully aware of security concerns, which may impact the determination of whether an applicant is a suitable candidate to be granted a firearms license. Former National Security Ministers Robert Montague and Peter Bunting were flagged for approving license for persons with criminal traces who were initially found unfit to hold a firearm by the FLA. Mr. Montague approved 6 such licenses, while Mr. Bunting approved 2. The Integrity Commission said the FLA should cease the irregular practice of a board reviewing its own decisions or that of a previous board. The Director of Investigation in his probe found that the 2012 and the 2016 FLA boards acted beyond their powers in their denial and subsequent approval of applications. He has referred the matter involving former Deputy FLA Chairman Dennis Meadows to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for determination. Mr. Meadows was found to have approved the application of a family member who was convicted for attempted possession with intent to distribute cocaine in the U.S. The Director of Investigation said the Director of Corruption Prosecution should decide whether the actions of Mr. Meadows amounted to an explicit act of nepotism, which constitutes the common law offense of misconduct in public office, a breach of public trust, and a breach of Section 14 of the Corruption Prevention Act. The Director of Investigation has recommended that FLA directors in reviewing and approving firearm user license conduct a complete perusal of the firearm user license applications rather than the execution of a mere rubber stamping or sending the strength of other directors. The Integrity Commission has sent a copy of its report to the Financial Investigations Division and the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency MOCA for further probing into other allegations against the FLA. Jamaica reports 45 new COVID cases, 2 deaths. Jamaica reported 45 new cases of COVID-19 and 2 fatalities on Thursday, according to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This pushed the total number of cases of the virus since the start of the pandemic to 128,318 and the death toll to 2,839. Meanwhile, the latest deaths include a 65-year-old man from Manchester and a 95-year-old woman from St. Catherine. The country also recorded 139 new recoveries, bringing the total number to 79,233. The positivity rate for the latest round of testing was 6.9%. There are 71 people hospitalized, 2 critically ill, 14 moderately ill, and 3 severely ill. There are 349 confirmed active cases on the island. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.